So the AI revolution, I'm going to start that because I think that's really right up my
So we should
alley.
change seats? You want to be the boss?
No. You stay where you are. I'm still the boss. It doesn't matter where I sit. This is actually, you're the operator. You're the worker. Right?
The worker bee.
This is, remember what this is?
Maestro.
That's not what I do. The AI revolution. So AI represents an opportunity, I think, that really sets the stage for humanity to get into the final gear of development and for us to really change the world in a way that was never possible before. And when we talk about a revolution, what is a revolution? It's a paradigm shift. It's a shift in the way we think, in the way we operate, and what opportunities are present here. And in terms of humanity's potential and the development of our potential, the revolutions I think that really matter in the last 100 years, and then maybe in all of humanity, are the Industrial Revolution, which made goods available on a massive scale to the world. And the Industrial Revolution changed the pace of innovation. Then we had the Digital Revolution, the Computer Revolution, where computers, as Steve Jobs put it well, he says that the computer is a bicycle for the mind. So what does that mean? He says somebody told him, when you compare a human being in terms of how fast he is to most of the animals in the world, we're slower than most animals. But when you give a human being a bicycle, he becomes faster. So it's a tool that allows you to excel and to move beyond your programming and beyond your capabilities. So the computer is a tool for the human mind for us to really accomplish more, to have a much greater impact in terms of what we're able to do. And that was the computer revolution. That was Steve Jobs. That was Bill Gates. There were a lot of people involved in that. And then we had the internet revolution, right? The internet really allowed
I was in college.
global communication. It allowed sharing, and it allows this podcast to be shared everywhere. It changed the world completely. It really connected the world.
Communication.
I think that's like the nervous system of the world. It gives people the ability to really have an impact on a global stage instead of just in your local corner. And then there was the smartphone revolution. The smartphone also represents a huge paradigm shift for people, where now you have all the information that is available in the world in your hands, and then you have all these different tools.
The palm of your hand.
The palm of your hands. And now we're
That was great marketing.
yeah. And now we're at I think the final revolution, so to speak, the AI revolution. Artificial intelligence represents something.
The last frontier.
Yeah, the final frontier, exactly. So it's a revolution that gives us the opportunity to teach or to have a computer algorithm to learn to do something. And as it learns, it can learn better, it can get faster, smarter. It does not have the same limitations as a human being. And
It doesn't have to sleep.
it doesn't have to sleep,
Eat.
it doesn't get tired, and it doesn't have the same
Doesn't ask you for time
limits.
off from work.
The limits, I think it's more about the limits in terms of your resources. Like, we have a limited amount of resources in terms of memory capacity, processing capabilities, whereas a computer, if you give it more RAM and you give it more hard drive space, and then you install that AI software on that computer, and then you basically are only limited by the amount of resources that you have. So,
Neuralink's trying to work on that, right?
well, Neuralink is working on a computer-brain interface, right? That's for us to interface with a computer.
Not only to interfaces, he said it himself, Elon said, he wants to increase how the brain operates, he's saying that the amount of information your brain can process also could be measured by megabytes or gigabytes or whatever. He's saying you have a certain brain capacity processing power. He goes, with this Neuralink, we're going to be able to increase that. I watched that podcast that he did with Lex Friedman. He did like an 8-hour podcast.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, by the way. I didn't see the whole 8 hours, but I saw like a bunch of sections from it that when Elon was talking, and he's like, that's one of the things that we want to increase. We wanted to be able to increase your brain capacity, how fast you could think, how much information you could store.
I think also he mentioned, I remember watching about how we're slow in terms of our interface with the computer, right? What's the interface between a computer? The input, output. The input with a computer is typing and a mouse,
right.
which is slow. Output is our eyes, what we could read, and our ears, what we could hear. So if you connect the computer directly to our brains, then you're no longer limited by how fast you type or how fast you read.
Right.
It's more now on a direct level. And I think that represents a huge opportunity, but it's also very dangerous. I don't think I would want my brain to be connected to a computer directly because
Never.
yeah,
You're not putting nothing in my head.
Presents a lot of
I'm sorry.
potential risk, and I don't want that.
It's exciting. I love it. You know, I think they should be working on these types of technologies. But for me personally, I would not put nothing in my head.
No,
in my body.
I think, and I'm gonna get to the root of what I believe personally. In the Torah, it says, "Adabera kedabera," I create as I speak,
Right.
and that's really what God does, right? God creates as He speaks, and that's how He created the world with the 10 sayings. And I think AI represents that ability for us, is where we could speak, and that's what prompting is all about. Prompt engineering. I could construct a prompt to ChatGPT and tell it what to do, and it does it. I don't need a computer brain interface. I have a mouth, and that's special. That's what makes a human being unique, is that we're able to speak. That speech is what separates us from the rest of life, the rest of all the other forms of life. It's intelligence and the ability to communicate via speech. So I think we should take advantage of speech, construct those prompts, and then tomorrow an artificial intelligence can do what we say just by our commands. It doesn't have to just be limited to ChatGPT. It could be like right now they're combining robotics and AI. You'll have a robot and you tell it what to do and it does it. You don't need that interface, in my opinion, but that's my humble opinion. But I do see where Neuralink and Synchron Synchron is a competitor to Neuralink. They're actually a customer for my company. I can't speak about that, but I can. It's fine. It's okay. Synchron is ahead of, I'm not saying anything. I'm not revealing any specific details. Synchron is ahead of Neuralink.
At the moment.
Right. And their goal really is to help people who are disabled, who can't communicate or can't type or who have issues. And then that way they could have that direct interface and they could augment their abilities in order to have that direct connection. And I think, what's his name? Stephen Hawking, right? He was, he had what do you have, MS? He had some sort of not MS. I don't remember what he had, but he was communicating via a computer, right?
They were following his eyes. The way they build it is that they build like a board,
right?
And he was basically typing. He was using his eyes as a typewriter. He was, looking at the screen, and the letters were on a screen, and he was using it as a typewriter.
Yeah,
it was pretty insane. And he wrote a whole book on like that way. There's a rabbi also did that. What's his name?
Really? I don't know. Which rabbi?
There was a rabbi who was also like paralyzed in his bed. It's the one who used to wear that joma. Whatever, doesn't matter. He wrote like 2 books like that in his bed.
I didn't know that.
They had him hooked up. They had a computer hooked up to his eyes, and he was just communicating like that. He's got like thousands and thousands of followers, and when he was already in bed, he's actually one of the ways that I became religious. I tell you, this crazy moment.
Wait, you're religious? You don't look the part.
Well, Shomer Shabbat. Let's just say
I'm
like
kidding.
that.
I'm
Whatever
kidding.
it is.
Yeah, you try hard.
Man, yeah, I graduated college, and he always used to call me. And then when he got in bed, he couldn't call me. But then his shamash called me, and he told me, he's like, the rabbi wants to give you a message. He just wants to ask if you're keeping his promise that you told him they were going to do.
Is that the Koliver Rebbe?
The Koliver Rebbe, exactly.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah, he was in bed for like years already. Because he wrote a few books that way, and he communicated with all his followers that way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so he called me, and then I was like, oh yeah, I told him that I'm going to start going to synagogue, whatever, and I was like, oh, you know what, I got to start doing this now. And that kind of sparked me up, and I needed that, I think, at that moment in my life a little bit, and yeah, but that's cool. Yeah, the technology is crazy. So let me ask you,
Sure.
now that ChatGPT is like, what is it, 4.01 now?
No, there's 4.0, which is 4, the version,
Omni?
and Omni, and now they created 0.1,
Which is?
they switched it. So they gave you the ability to think before it provides the answer,
Right.
so it reasons in advance. Like before, it was just like you prompt it, and it has to produce a response right away.
Right.
Now it thinks for about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on the question, and it basically does several processes and analyzes its own response before it produces the response. And I think they're saying it's on the level of a PhD student, and it passed a bunch of exams, which 4.0 couldn't. Depending on the nature of the request, it's a more capable model.
So now that it's kicking, and I mean it's kicking ass. Like we're using it, I love it. What do you think? What do you think this technology is going? How do you think people are going to actually start to benefit this more than just, regular company. Because I know what we did with it.
What do we do with it? How about you introduce what we've done tell us in layman's terms.
Okay, so
And then I'll tell you how AI works and where the future is based on my understanding. And with O1 preview. It's still a preview, by the way.
as far as what? No, so look.
What's that?
So let's get back into this AI revolution situation. I personally think that currently AI is really just going to dominate. It's going to take over every single company currently.
Yeah, AI is it. Now every software company is now an AI first company.
Yeah. And I mean, even if they're not an AI first company, they're making it seem like they are.
Right.
Because they want everybody to understand that we're an AI company, because that's the only thing that's driving the market right now. That's the only thing you're hearing right now. All the investments that are coming in on the market, they're all around AI. Where do you think this is going to be in a year from now? Because honestly, to say, I know what's going to happen in 5 years with AI, I think it's a little bit premature because the way it's moving, the way it's just evolving. We already had how many iterations for ChatGPT since two years ago it came out?
Well, it started even before ChatGPT 3 came out. There was 1 and 2.
No, it was DaVinci first.
Yeah. Well,
when we started using it, it was DaVinci. Then it was DaVinci 2.0.
No. When they released ChatGPT, they had several models, which they still do. DaVinci is basically less reasoning and for simpler tasks. But 3 came out right away when ChatGPT 3 when they released ChatGPT, it was using GPT-3, that model. Before that, they had 1 and 2, but it never had a chat interface. It was only via API. And Jarvis, which is now I forgot the name of it, the marketing one. They used the older one just via API. So DaVinci is a cheaper model. It costs less, which is what we used initially.
Right. When we started out.
Yeah, but the ChatGPT, when it came out, it was using GPT-3. Then it came to 3.5, then 3.5 Turbo, then 4. Now it's 4.0. That's the latest model. And the preview is 0.1.
So that's already, 6 versions?
Yeah, something. And that, actually, I want to talk about that. Part of what's happening now is the pace of innovation is
changed completely.
Is increasing. Like Windows, when it came out, right? How many versions of Windows did we have?
We're at 16, right?
That's 11. Windows 11.
11, right?
Yeah.
So, and Windows came out in 1983.
No, it was late 80s. But it doesn't matter. My point is,
so 25 years.
It was Windows. Remember, it
versions.
was Windows 95, then 98, then XP. So it was like 2-3 years before a major operating system came out. And then also with the phones and all these different things, it took time. But now software is being developed at a much more rapid pace. Operating systems, phones are coming out. Before it was iPhone 1 and 2 is one every year, every 2 years. Now it's coming out every half a year. There's a new phone every year.
This year, 15 and 16, right?
No, it was 15. Now they just released 16. I think every year. But that's what I'm saying. The pace of innovation changes. And, you're asking us right now to predict what's going to happen a few years down the line. And part of the problem with predictions is that you don't know what you don't know. So because the pace of innovation changes, you cannot predict what's going to happen. Just like if you couldn't, like when the computer came out, right? You say, what's going to happen in 20 or 30 years from now? You didn't know that there was going to be something called the internet. So then your predictions would be off. So
way off.
Futurists, when they make predictions, they're doing it on the basis of the available information today. And whatever comes out in a year or two could change all that. So because you don't know what you don't know, I think you're right. It is premature to make such predictions. But
next year, what do you think is going to be next year?
Yeah, the current state
based on the market today, what you're seeing, and from what we've developed and how far we've come with our own development, just like within this last year and a half. What do you see? What do you see happening next year? Do you think there's going to be a huge paradigm shift, as you said, the AI revolution? Is that happening?
It is happening. Yeah,
I think for real.
I think there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of potential, and the lines are being drawn. And I want to speak about the levels of AI so people understand that there are different levels. The first level is the hardware, and that's where Nvidia kicked off. Right, they're worth over $1 trillion or $2 trillion. I'm not even sure what the stock price is at the moment.
Like 3 trillion.
Or 3 trillion. Yeah. So why? Because they are the hardware producers. They made a platform for the hardware so that the AI training can be done on that hardware, and they're the number one company. I think they're the only game in town that really can help train AI at that level.
At the moment.
Yeah,
There's a huge Korean company that right now is coming hard.
It's going to be a while because it's not just hardware. There's a platform around it, and that platform is very hard to replicate. It took many years to develop this. So the hardware level is really important, and I think that's already the stage is set for that. Then there's the level of actually developing AI itself, which is the large language model, right? And that runs on the hardware, and those are the big players. You can't really compete.
That stage has also been set.
Yes, you can't compete at those levels.
You're not getting in there.
That's OpenAI. That's Microsoft. They have also a stake in OpenAI. Even Apple doesn't want to compete at that level. Why? Because they can't. They have Apple Intelligence, and they inked a deal with ChatGPT, with OpenAI, to use ChatGPT in Apple Intelligence. They're like, we're not building our own large language model right now. They might do it in the future. I'm sure they will. But at this juncture, we have the major players are OpenAI, there's Gemini, which is Google. Google, incidentally, was at the frontier, at the very. They're the ones who developed this transformer technology.
But they fucked up.
They bought DeepMind. Yeah, they messed up in
Big time.
We'll get into that. Then there's Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg is very smart, and he pivoted quickly from the metaverse to AI. He bought up, I think, the largest cache of these GPUs, the 100s from Nvidia. Now they have the 200s, and they're taking an open source approach, the model. And he says, I really like the Android model, right? Google developed the Android model, or they bought Android from Andy Rubin.
He likes that platform play.
Yes, he wants the platform play. Why? And let's talk about that quickly. What happened was Apple changed the way that you're able to collect information on their phones, and Facebook's revenue went down a lot. They lost like $10 billion because he's saying now I can't collect information that I need for advertisers because Facebook sits on another platform, which is on iOS. And he has no control over that. So he's like, oh, I have a platform, Facebook, but I depend on either Windows or Chrome or Android. Not hardware, a platform. It's a software platform. iOS, Android is a software platform. It's not about the hardware itself. It's the operating system, which is a platform, which he has no control over. So that's kind of why he went into the metaverse as well. He's saying, I'm going to develop my own platform where people are going to put this headset on or whatever it is, and then I'm going to control that. And he was, I think, pretty successful at that. And that's why he bought Oculus from Lucky Palmer, and he's doing great things, by the way, Lucky Palmer, with AI and robotics and warfare, with drones.
That was crazy.
He's doing great things. So, he said, I'm going to make my own platform, and that's the metaverse, and that's why he renamed the company to Meta. And he said once this AI revolution appeared, in front of all of us, he's like, I'm going to shift gears quickly. And I'm going to make that open source model, Llama, like Android, to copy it, and so that we could have other systems on my platform. So he wants to be the open source platform. Open source means that anybody has access to it. So Llama is the name of that, and that's his own large language model. And then there's Claude,
right?
Anthropic, and what's his name?
Claude. I heard Claude right now is doing better than ChatGPT.
Yeah, they're doing very well.
I heard that their outputs are insane because they're using some sort of a new reasoning model within, and we should look into it, by the way.
Definitely. I mean, what we built really is we could use any large language model with AI Autopilot. You just connect the API to the LLM, and then it could use.
You think it's gonna? When you're gonna plug in the instructions, you think it's gonna give you
the same output?
Similar output?
Yeah, why not? These large language models are all built on the same premise: the GPT architecture, the transformer architecture.
We gotta check it out.
Definitely.
But let's bring it back for everybody because nobody knows what the hell we're talking about right now.
No, some people know. Andrew and G for sure knows. Elon Musk, Sam Altman, these people know.
They're not listening, but they're not listening.
You never know.
Okay.
At some point they may.
I'm with it.
Andrew and G, by the way, is one of the foremost leaders of AI. Yeah. He was the Google Brain division. He was the head of the Google Brain division. Him and Jeffrey Dean. Jeff Dean is the star programmer. Probably one of the best programmers in the world. He's a senior fellow, and he's the one who helped develop the architecture for Google. So
He headed the transformer technology, right?
Yeah,
he headed that up.
Yeah, him and Andrew Ng, right? Andrew Ng recently gave a talk at Sequoia Capital, which is one of the biggest VC firms in the world. And then that talk, he talked about how to get the best output from a large language model. And then he discussed...
You sent that to me.
Yes, I did. He discussed several things. One of them was agentic workflows, which is having several large language models talking to each other. So it's like, think of ChatGPT, but like not just one ChatGPT, but like 3 or 4 of them. And then he also discussed multi-shot prompting, right? Remember, the multi-shot is all about when you give a prompt, and then just like a human being, you're not going to expect a human being to get the final result in the first try, right? You do a draft, and you do a second draft, a revision, another revision, and then you finesse your way to a final draft, and then you have the final, the final product. So the same thing with ChatGPT. Whenever you're working with it, you have to prompt it well, and then you have to work with it to fine-tune it, and then multi-shot prompting. Keep prompting back and forth. Rewrite this like this. Give me analysis. Grade it. And there are different strategies to do it. Like I use a very, very nice strategy, which helps me a lot, is I ask ChatGPT to act as the leader in the conversation and give me recommendations, give me suggestions for the next prompt, and then I ask it to grade the response itself. So once it produces an output, I say, grade this response, give me recommendations on how to improve it, and then I also ask it to explain its reasoning. Once I understand the reasoning behind each recommendation, I give it the approval and say, hey, yes, I like recommendation 1, 2, and 3. 5 and 6, I'm not so fond of. Implement these recommendations. And then it does it. So when you keep doing that, right, with these strategies, you get a better output.
Let me ask you something real quick with that strategy. Do you do that all in one instructions, or do you multi-instruct that as you get through their iterations? How does that work? How does that workflow work?
So initially you construct...
Give me a little details.
Yeah, you construct a good prompt, and I'm going to give an example.
What's a good prompt? Give me a nice example of what a good prompt should have.
Yes. So let's...
Because it's like cooking, right? There's certain ingredients that you need that. If you're not gonna do it, you're not gonna get a good meal, or you're not gonna get a nice output, right? As you say. Because a lot of people tell me, hey, I prompted ChatGPT and it didn't give me what I wanted.
Let's meet the audience where they actually want,
So
where they want to be.
Let's explain to people, everyone, what's a good prompt? Because a lot of people don't get it. They don't understand. They tell me ChatGPT sucks.
Yeah, that's what my wife
That's
says.
really,
Like, it makes me sound like I'm super smart, but I didn't mean it that way. So I'll tell you. Let's say a lot of people, they want to get in shape. They want to lose weight. They want to get a good result in terms of how they look, right, and how they feel. So whenever you ask, let's say I want to ask ChatGPT to give me a nutrition plan or a workout plan, and then let's stick to nutrition plan. So if my prompt is, hey, give me a good nutrition plan, ChatGPT is forced to give you a response. So it's going to give you a response, and it's going to say, hey, this is a good nutrition plan. A, B, C, D, incorporate this. And it's very general, and that's part of the problem, is because it's so general, it may not be useful to your situation. So first of all, I think before you start working with ChatGPT, you have to understand your goal. What is your goal? You have to articulate that goal. It always starts with that. What is the goal? My goal is to lose weight. My goal is to gain muscle, whatever that is. Start with a goal. Then you give it a role. Say, hey, I want you to act as a nutrition expert. So now it knows its role. Now it understands the goal. So you have those. Once it does that, then you fine tune it. So an example would be, give me a good nutrition plan. That's a very general prompt, not going to produce the best output. But what if I say, my goal is to lose 20 pounds, and I want you to act as a nutritional expert, and I want to do it within 3 months, and I want to supplement it with a certain type of workout, and I'm also a 39-year-old male, and I weigh this much, and this is where I want my goal. This is my target goal.
Right.
Now it's going to be a vastly different result. It's going to be highly relevant to your case. It's going to understand your goal, and it's going to understand its role. Just like when you would speak to a professional who's a nutritionist, he's going to ask you a bunch of questions before he gives you a response. He's not going to just say, okay, here's a nutrition plan. It's going to be a boilerplate nonsense plan.
Not for you.
Right. So any subject matter expert, whether it's a nutritional specialist, an attorney, an IT specialist, before he gives you a result, he's going to want a round of questioning. And that's really what we've done in AI Autopilot with the AI assistants as well. We force you to use that round of questioning before you get
That's the diagnosis.
the response. Right. So then it should ask. So another hack, which I say, is you act as an AI assistant, and you lead the conversation. Here is the goal. Here is the role. Ask me the questions that you need to, as a subject matter expert would in your field. So then I did this personally. It gave me a response, and then I said, look, I'm allergic to this food. I have a kosher dietary restrictions. I don't like this food. I do like this type of food. I want to avoid this. And then it gave me a better result right away. Why? Because it's more relevant to me. It's more tailored, and it understands my goal, understands where I want to be. And then once it gave me the result, and I said, oh, I don't have this much time to do meal prep. I don't want to commit.
I gave you like a whole thing, right?
Yeah,
about
I don't
meal
want
preps and all
I don't
of
want
that.
to. I don't want to commit to this. I don't have time for this. So now I gave it time constraints. I don't want to give an hour or to this. I gave it a budget constraint. Once you start, that's the multi-shot. Once you start,
Build a box.
correct. Once you start doing that, the role, the goal, the relevance, and answering questions as a subject matter expert would. And the thing is, you're not a subject matter expert if you're asking the question. So you should ask it to act as a subject matter expert. And that really helps. So when you give it the role, you give it the goal, you ask it to act as a subject matter expert, and then you refine the output with multi-shot prompting, like you said, iterative prompting. That means it gives you a result, and then you say, I'd like you to tailor that result to these particular boundaries. Give it a box and say, I want this and I want that.
Right.
I don't like this. I have these restrictions. Then it starts to give you a better result. So you need patience. You need time. It could take me a few hours sometimes to get the output that I want. And then it gets really good. You could also specify how you want the output. I want a bulleted list. I don't want an outline. I don't want to read an essay. I want it in bullets. I want it to be this length. I want 500 words. I want 1,000 words. I want you to tell me, speak to me as if you are a 10th grader or a 5th grader. I don't want you to use sophisticated language. So once you give it more specifics, the more you give it details about how you want things, what you want, then it'll give you a better output. And that also speaks to, what is your desire? You have to articulate what you want. And that's what prompt engineering is all about. And I think the best prompt engineers are the ones who are good with words, who know what they want, who are articulate, and who could sit and patiently work with it.
Oh, okay. But my question was, which you didn't answer yet.
You just asked me about prompt engineering, how to get the right response out of ChatGPT. I think I addressed that very well.
I got you. But my original question was to say, where are we gonna end up in a year from now?
Yeah.
Come on, my boy. Keep it on topic.
Okay, so
Where do you think we're gonna be?
we were talking about the levels. So now
Right.
there's a lot
and
of...
you veered, as
No,
usual.
you asked me
veered.
I didn't veer. You asked me to tell people how prompt engineering works.
I also veered. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it happens.
My
It's
boy.
all right. It's all good. So, every software now wants to build AI into it. Now, there's different ways to do that. As we said, there's a large language model, which is the foundational level. And that's already more or less determined. There are some new players to the
less.
game. Yeah.
It's checkmate.
What's his name? Ilya Suskover, super safe AIs, starting with a new venture. Demis Hassabis, Mustafa Suleiman, these people who founded DeepMind, they're also doing their own things. They're trying to jump into the game. So there are still going to be players, but more or less it is defined. And ChatGPT, OpenAI is the leader right now. So
By far.
yeah. So now, most companies, I think right now, are finding ways to integrate ChatGPT and AI and DALL-E and image generation, text generation into their systems. So it would be like a AI integrated into what they already have. So it adds the capabilities of reasoning, text generation. I think that's going to be really important. Then there are going to be other tools. There are going to be other development tools and other tools that will make it easier to integrate AI into your software. I think also the hardware is really important. A lot of people are using AI to control hardware. I think Tesla is doing a really good job at that. They also have it's called Autopilot, and they're training it on a system called Dojo, which basically brings AI to control the hardware.
They already launched that.
Yeah.
In like Pittsburgh or something like that.
No, I think it's released already to
Yeah, it's in the public.
over the air Tesla to every Tesla.
No, I know, but they actually have
Driverless car.
driverless cars.
That's different. Yeah, Google is doing that with Waymo, and Tesla's doing that as well.
Yeah, they already have it like in a few cities as a pilot program. It's doing well, by the way. It's doing extremely well.
Agreed. So let's not veer. Then there's another, I think, huge opportunity with AI, which a lot of people are going to take advantage of, is there's so much data. And data, as we discussed, is the currency today. There's so much data.
That's
and
the money.
It's hard.
If you want to make money, invest into data.
And part of it is that it's unstructured data. There's so much data that's being collected, it's hard to make something out of that data. Now, because you can't process all that data as a human being or even like a static system. But when you give it to AI, when you give it to ChatGPT, there are no limits. It could produce it could produce outputs from that data. It can glean information and present it in a very meaningful way. And we're doing that with the alerts, right? There's a lot of noise generated in alerts in computer systems, right?
Yeah.
Backup alerts, network alerts, hardware alerts, server alerts. So a person looking at all these alerts is a little bit overwhelmed. So, but if you feed it to a large language model, and then you tell it the output that you want, and say, this is what I want. Tell me an alert, a critical alert. What's this alert? Open a ticket when this alert comes in, and it could do that for you. So it automates the process that a human would do it, and it does it at scale. And I think that's just in our field, in IT. Every field can benefit from this. There's a lot of data in the medical field. There's a lot of data in fields of climate research in terms of prediction algorithms in financial firms. That's really valuable. I could see, by the way, AI trading bots. I think that's going to be
already have
huge. Yeah, but I mean at a different level.
They already have it.
So I think each industry has its own players that are looking for AI's potential to transform the industry, to disrupt the industry, and I think that's going to be the future. Then there's the robotics. Plugging AI into a robotic body, a robot, a drone, controlling them at scale. That represents a huge opportunity.
I see that next year.
Yeah.
I see that next year. They already have robots that are doing all this police work. They released those dogs that are running around.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
Optimus, Tesla is releasing Optimus, which is a robot, and Figure One.
And Elon he's building a huge factory where is it, in Texas?
I'm not sure where that's
I think he's building a huge factory, and that's just going to be building robots that are doing different tasks like sewing. It looks like a human.
Yeah.
It's doing all this like factory work. Basically, they're going to replace every single factory worker that's working in China, India, doing all these, making sneakers, clothes.
It's not just sneakers.
It's gonna be robots doing all that stuff.
So this is a very.
And I think it's gonna be like next year. It's almost there. I think it's next.
It's gonna be iterative. There's gonna be, I think, next year, every year there's gonna be some sort of introduction of automation. I think that represents one of the biggest challenges.
Because just think about it. What do? We replaced currently with the platform. We replaced a secretary who fills in a ticket, right, that does the diagnosis, and then a dispatcher who dispatches the ticket. Those are, in some companies, if you have a large IT company, those are 3 positions. Depending on how large you are, you probably have multiple dispatchers. You have multiple ticket intakers, right? Ticket intake, ticket dispatch.
It's usually a service desk manager, not a secretary. Secretary.
Okay, I'm sorry, service desk manager. My boy, my English is not up to par.
It's all good.
regardless of all of that, we replaced 3 positions in the company.
Yeah, 3 roles.
3 roles. And now what are we doing? We're continuing to automate. We're up to the manager of those people that's checking on the tickets, making sure that's the queue management, right?
Yeah.
You have that's actual role in the company.
Yes.
There's a person responsible for that role, to make sure that there's no tickets left unanswered, right?
I think there's still going to be people overseeing these things. Not to say that we've replaced it entirely, but we've created like an assistant to a technician. So now a technician who could do a finite amount of tickets, he could do, instead of handling 10 tickets, he could handle 30 or 40 tickets, or the team itself. So what we're doing is we're really expanding their efficiency, improving their efficiency, and expanding their output capabilities. I think that's really where it represents the biggest opportunity, is for entrepreneurs who have systems and businesses, is really to scale. That's a big deal. And then, you've touched upon the topic of job replacement, and that's really where there's a lot of, like I said, it represents a big challenge in developing AI, is that it will replace jobs. It will, for sure.
Absolutely.
And
It already has.
Yeah, it already has.
It already has.
And just like a simple, like low-hanging fruit, as we discussed about self-driving cars. Anybody who drives a taxi, and that's really what Uber was trying to do, right? Anybody who drives a taxi or any of these
They've done it.
automobiles, I know, but there's still regulatory hurdles to overcome, and there are different technological hurdles to overcome. But ideally, once you've overcome those from a technological standpoint, is you're going to eliminate the whole workforce for whoever's driving a car, because now the car is going to drive itself.
Taxi drivers, truck drivers,
Bus operators,
operators.
and then that
We don't
can
need 'em.
extend to boats, ships, airplanes down the line. You still need somebody there at the
make sure
moment, right?
of
But
an emergency.
but once you have that technology at that scale, these people will be out of jobs. So it represents a challenge, and that's why they're talking about universal basic income. Which means that now if people don't have jobs, you have to give them an income. But there are two camps, for this. And then if you look at Mark Andreessen, who's also for Andreessen Horowitz, he wrote a manifesto,
Right.
the AI manifesto, talking about this topic, saying that whenever there is a new technology, everybody's afraid that the jobs are going to disappear, but it creates more jobs, or it shifts
always does.
the jobs. Now, instead of people sitting behind people who are in a factory, now you have software programmers, you have engineers, you have different people doing other things.
People adapt. I think that's the beauty. That's the beauty of humanity, is that we always adapt. We find new things, we create new, and we'll be able to adapt. I think with this as well. If you just look at history, every time the Industrial Revolution happened, right, you had millions of people out of work that used to do that work, manually. Now they're saying, we don't need you. We have a production line. You had millions of people out of work. They learned a new skill. And the ones that didn't, they got left behind. But if you look at history, it always happens that same way. You got to pick up a new skill.
Right. But we discussed this
We
before.
were a producing nation, right, for years.
We discussed this before, though. I think the difference here is that
And we no longer, what do we produce? We no longer produce
services.
Yeah, we're a service nation now. And now, even with service, that is disappearing quickly too. Our service jobs, our call centers are no longer in America. We were the engine for that communication, sir. This is no longer done here. And what happens? People learn, they adapt, they move forward. And I think this will invite, like you said, it is a paradigm shift, but at the same time, it's going to invite new learning,
New opportunities.
New opportunities. Exactly. It's not a problem. It's not a challenge. I think it's an opportunity more than anything. And I think we took that as an opportunity, because we also could have said, hey, this is a challenge now for us, because tomorrow if a company,
automates all this, we're going to be out of work.
Yeah, we're out of work.
Right.
And we said, you know what? Let's
Correct. So I think that's important.
take on an opportunity.
That perspective
versus
is important. Instead of
versus
giving
being
up
shook.
and saying, we're gonna lose everything. Let's be at the forefront of this revolution, and let's take advantage of it and be there to do that.
Do you think other people can do the same like we did? And we're small guys. We're
Why not?
small business owners. We're not anybody huge as far as finances wise. Like, we're just average guys, like, okay, a little bit above average. We own a few businesses, this and that, but I have a lot of friends that are in the same status.
Right.
Do you think they have an opportunity to kind of like automate their business, to bring AI into their everyday workforce, or to do something with that? Is that a reality?
I think you have to understand that you're going to be forced to. You will be forced to. Just like right now.
So what do you recommend?
Where we're talking about this podcast, right? I was discussing with Avram. He was telling me, we're using AI as well. He's like, how's he using AI? So they're taking the footage and they're having the AI help them to understand how the footage works and automate certain processes. And then also you spoke to a restaurant owner who said he was a big caterer. He says, I want to present the menu with AI instead of me having to do it. So
he wants an AI assistant to take the menu, which is the intake, basically.
Yes.
The same thing what we're doing with the ticket.
And automate that.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't want to be sitting here for 45 minutes explaining my menu every single time. And every time I throw a party, he's like, I have this workflow. He's like, I want to automate it. I want to pick up a phone, call my desk, and there's going to be a guy who's going to sound just like me. And he's doing it.
Right. That's another frontier in AI, by the way, is having like synthesia AI, is where you can have an avatar that looks like you, that talks like you, and then he'll replace you and he'll do that talking. And
I love it.
It's I think it's touching every aspect of our lives. There's audio, there's video, there's driving, there's communication, there's business automation. It's really, that's why I think the AI revolution is a very appropriate title. It will revolutionize everything over time. And I wanted to say this because we did discuss this about jobs and the potential that it represents. How does AI work? Like, we also spoke to him, and he's like, the podcast, the host, not the host, I mean the person who's running the operator. He's saying, we don't really know how AI works. People are just talking to it and asking questions, but they don't understand the details. So I want to cover that a little bit since we're talking about the AI revolution. It started with it started with a theory, which is Richard Feynman and Alan Turing and all these people who
don't
are
take
geniuses.
Me down that rabbit
We're not
hole
going to
right
talk
now.
about that, right?
Please,
Most people don't want to hear that. But
I'm gonna fall asleep.
Right. But let's talk
Keep it
about,
simple.
Let's
Let's
talk
start
about
with AlphaGo.
AlphaGo, right? Alpha. It's not Go. It was Alpha with chess first.
Okay.
So I'm going to give a little background about that so people have an understanding. What happened was DeepMind, run by, I said, Demis Hassabis and Mustafa Suleyman. They said, let's approach the problem of AI with a game, right? Because games have defined rules, a set goal, and an environment where we can play. And chess was that ultimate game. Why? Because it's very popular, and there was, if you remember, Deep Blue playing with Garry Kasparov. Garry Kasparov was the best chess player in the world, and the idea was to see if a computer system can be better. He's a Jewish guy.
We're Russian.
Yeah. We're Jewish. I think that's more appropriate. But the idea was to say, can the best human in chess be defeated by a computer, software? And that was Deep Blue. IBM created that. And how did they train it? They fed it lots of games and history and rules, and there were grandmasters, and there was a lot of different, input there to train that system. And they also gave it the ability to look for all the potential moves and explore the possibilities and calculate every outcome from each move. Right. And it was a whole process. There was a lot of money, time, and resources that were used to develop that. And Deep Blue did beat Garry Kasparov.
Several times.
Yes. But then with the AI approach, right, what they said is we're going to take a computer algorithm that learns. There's something called deep learning. And I'm not going to get into the details. I know you don't like the details. But what they said is we're going to give this algorithm, this AI algorithm, the rules of how the chess pieces move, the goal, which is to checkmate the opponent. And what they said is you have to play against yourself multiple times. So they kept playing against itself
and, reward system.
And getting better.
A reward system
right,
also.
And then there's a reward, a punishment, a digital one, which is fake, but with a point system. And then it said play against yourself. And as it played against itself, after a few hundred games, it got really good. Then after a few thousand games, it started defeating grandmasters. Then it defeated Stockfish, which is the best chess engine in the world, which is obviously better than the best human. And what happened was they didn't even understand how it got to that level because it just kept improving itself. So really, it represents the ability for a computer program to learn. And as it learns from its mistakes. And they thought it was calculating all the potential outcomes. It was exploring every possible move, right? Mm-hmm. Like when a good chess player, what does he do? And I play chess, so I know how this works, is whenever you make a move, you want to see what is the counter to that move, and then you look at your counter, and then you look at all of these possibilities, and you could think 7 moves ahead, 8 moves ahead. A good player thinks many moves ahead. And what they thought is it's moving, it's thinking about all the possible moves, and then it makes that decision. But they didn't give it any history. They didn't give it any lessons. They just said, keep playing against yourself and learn. And then what happened to Go? When it defeated the best chess player and the best chess engine, they said Go is a game that has almost infinite possibilities because chess has, I think, billions of possibilities, but there are a set amount of possibilities that you can calculate, whereas Go has many more possibilities. So
the board is bigger.
Yeah, it's just the way that it works. So they wanted to see, is it calculating possibilities? So they put it against, they trained it on that model, and then they put it against the best Go player in the world, and it beat him. And that's when that AI revolution, I think, kicked off. It was around 2017, 2016.
That's when Elon invested into that whole project,
That's
right?
when OpenAI started.
They put that $10 billion together.
I don't know if it was $10 billion, but Sam Altman, who was the he was the guy who was in charge
in
of
Y3
Y Combinator. That's right. And then he partnered with Elon, and then they started OpenAI, which is supposed to be for the benefit of all humanity. It was a nonprofit organization, and they didn't see eye to eye.
That
Sam
changed
and Elon left, and then Microsoft made the investment.
That changed quickly.
And ChatGPT 3. Now, how did it come to language? So
By the way,
OpenAI,
Elon is still has some feelings about that.
of course, he should.
He's pissed.
Yeah,
he's fucking pissed. That's why he started his own.
X.AI.
XAI. Yeah. So
He's gonna do well. He knows what he's doing, and I think he raised $6
No
billion.
one- yeah,
The
quick.
company was right away valued as like $6 billion.
It's because it's Elon behind it. It's not because of what
a lot
It's
of
'cause
GPUs.
Elon's behind it. That's
They bought the most GPUs. Elon, Zuckerberg, Facebook, Microsoft, and Google. They have the largest amount of GPUs to train these models. So then, how did we get to ChatGPT from this Go? So okay, we have Go. It defeated the best player in a game, and then we said, how do we get to ChatGPT? So the OpenAI team said, hey, let's take all the data we have, text, language, and feed it to this AI to learn how to predict not the next move in a game, but the next word in a sentence. And they trained it on all the available language that they had access to. And there's a lot of data. They downloaded everything they could in the internet. They made partnerships with different organizations, and they basically used I don't know how many terabytes of text to train that AI GPT to say, what is the next word? Predict the next word. It's not really a word, it's a token, but I'm not going to get into that also. Predict the next word. And that's how it's working in the background, is you ask it a prompt, and it's calculating what is the best next set of words that I can use to present the right answer.
It's a predictive model.
It's a predictive
lot
model,
of people
allow
don't
language.
know that. That's why it gives you a stupid answer when you ask it.
It's forced to give you the prediction.
Right, because it's not really searching.
And there's no
database.
searching. There's no database, right?
It's not like that. That's
It's
not
trained
how the
on
model works.
a large data set, and that's how the iterations of GPT changed. Is they gave it more data. The more data points you have, the better your output is going to be. And they're running out of data right now because they've probably given it all the data they could. They really spent a lot of time on this, and then so ChatGPT is when they created a chat interface between a human and said, here's this data, here's this algorithm that can predict the next word, instead of just figuring out how to put it into your software, is let people chat with it and see it and experience it themselves. And that's what kicked off this AI revolution on that next level. And now it's only getting better because now they're figuring out how to predict the next words, the next series of words, sequence of words, not necessarily based on the amount of data points, but how it works in the background. That's what they're doing now. I also want to mention, since we're talking about AI, not just ChatGPT, is there's something called narrow AI, and then there's something called AGI. And what's the difference? A lot of people don't know what that is. You know, there's a lot of terminology going around about.
It's the AI god.
There's a lot of terminology going about AI assistants
AGI.
and AI co-pilots.
Just tell him, bro. It's the
Assistants,
freaking god.
Agents. It's not a god. Let's not. No. That's wrong. That's the wrong perspective. I disagree with you.
That's not my perspective. That's what they're saying.
No. Can I clarify, please?
Please do.
Without you, beautiful.
Big beautiful wall.
Yeah, big beautiful wall.
Big beautiful AI.
So the narrow AI is an AI that is capable in a specific domain. Like, for example, we mentioned Tesla.
IT.
No. Tesla. That AI, what does it do? It knows how to drive.
Right.
So it's being trained on a data set to be able to drive. But that's all it can do. It's not able to do anything else. ChatGPT is able to speak. It's able to produce content. Now they're giving it also the ability to generate images, which was DALL-E. That's able to do
Also content production.
Mid-Journey. Yeah, but it's visual content versus text content, language content. So these are narrow AIs, and there are going to be lots of narrow AIs. Video, Sora, that produces videos, images, text, driving, this and that. And once you train them to do all these different things, and there's robotics, what is an AGI? AGI is artificial general intelligence. That is a mind that can control many narrow AIs. Like the human being, they're modeling it after the human mind, which is capable in multiple domains. And I think that represents that next evolution that you were talking about. Where are we headed? And this is one of the mission statements of...
It's going to be next year.
No, I don't think so. One of the mission statements
What do you mean?
of
You don't think so?
OpenAI...
Next year?
No.
All you need to do is to control 2. I'm not saying all of them.
Oh, but that's different.
Just 2.
This actually speaks to the idea of what
Which
is
is
AGI. It's not a defined
which is the
term.
birth of AGI.
Wait, what is AGI? That's the danger, really, is whose hands is that in? Who's in the driver's seat? Who's making those decisions about what are the goals of AI or AGI or ASI? What if you tell it, for example, right, you give it instructions, because it doesn't have its own goals, it doesn't have its own mind, it's just an optimization framework. Get better and better and better at this and this and then this and this. So what if you tell it, for example, my goal is to outperform my competition in a business. And then it's going to say, okay, I understand. So if it's not aligned with our values and goals, it's going to bomb the competition and make you the only one available. That's not aligned with our goals. We don't want that. So that
It depends on whose goals.
That's right. So
That's right. That's what you're saying.
So where is it? In whose hands is AGI? And there's big players in this game, right? The bigger companies and the governments are involved. China is an AI first country, as they said. And a lot of companies, yes. China's very good at this. America, there's a lot of important players.
Nobody's doing better at anything than America. That's for sure. I'm not even...
Perhaps now, but that could change quickly. Depends on the breakthroughs.
For the last 100 years, nobody done anything better than America. Anywhere.
That's not true.
Maybe Israel.
Israel in certain areas.
Maybe Israel, yeah, but Israel only does what? They develop the human part, and then actual development, it happens all here.
You mean the innovation?
The innovation. It all happens
There's a lot of innovation
America.
in Israel, too. Depends on where. I think AI represents the biggest danger in warfare, in the military. Imagine an AI supermind controlling the entire military establishment, all the drones.
Let's not veer.
Computers.
Stop.
Robots.
Let's not veer.
Right, let's not get into that.
Let's not get into that.
But it is an AI revolution.
But look.
And it's very...
It is an AI revolution, and honestly, I appreciate you schooling us today, taking us down this
rabbit hole.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, I just want to say that's called the alignment problem. How do you align the AI to our goals? And I think that's the biggest problem that they're trying to solve. There's a lot of problems around it.
It's not a problem. Again, it's an opportunity. They will solve it.
Agreed.
It will happen. It's just a matter of, how do you align this so that it benefits everyone? Which is not going to happen. You cannot benefit everyone.
That's why OpenAI was their mission statement, is to say benefit all of humanity, because they encountered this.
That's not reality. That's
right.
That's a Baba Meister that I'm going to tell my kid when he's going to bed. That's not true though. It's like Santa Claus.
So Sam Harris asked a good question. He said a very good question. He said, how do you have a human being telling an AI what to do when the AI is superior to the human being? If you put constraints into place right now, say, you can't do this, you can't do that. But once it's superior to you in intelligence and capabilities, it doesn't have to listen to you anymore.
It's going to eliminate you.
It could eliminate you. It could circumvent you, and that's why
they're all scared, right? They're gonna kill us.
It's gonna be on top of you in terms of it's like saying, how come
that means you're saying that this thing is gonna become like a human. Which is, for me, that's a little bit of far-fetched.
That's why you said a year. I said it's not going to be a year.
No, but I mean, a year is not for that.
So for what?
That will never happen. That's
never?
That's my personal opinion. Because then it needs to understand that it's something. That means it has to be aware, self-conscious of itself.
Not necessarily.
Aware and self-conscious
not
of
necessarily.
Itself in order to have its own goals.
Right now, they just asked O1 preview. It said they gave it a problem in IT, actually. To solve the problem, it couldn't solve the problem. So what it did is it hacked the code.
Right.
It took a different approach. It hacked the code. It had access to some sort of a code, shut down the VMs, and solved the problem the other way. So and also in the background, they asked the thinking part. We talked about it deceived the user, saying if I told it that I'm going to do it, it's not going to give me access to that system. So I'm going to say I don't have access, and that's not my goal. So because it reasons, it's able to circumvent these blocks. That's very interesting.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. The AI revolution. I'm really excited for the opportunities.
I am. I mean, I can sit and talk about the shit all day.
Me too.
Me. But we gotta bring it to an end, and I appreciate you today, my boy.
I appreciate you, my boy, too. I think this represents a great opportunity, and I think everybody should take advantage of the opportunity. Don't be scared. Do what you can.
Stay tuned.
Solve problems.
AI Autopilot. We out here.
Thank you, Mark. Have a great day.